The message came on a Tuesday morning, crashing through Earth's communication networks like a digital tsunami. Every screen on the planet flickered, every radio fell silent. And then the voice spoke in perfect English, though it clearly came from something that had never drawn breath on Earth. Greetings, humans of the third planet. We are the Galactic Confederation. Your species has been observed. Your primitive radio signals have reached our outer territories. By the laws that govern all civilized space, you must now prove your right to exist among the stars. Dr. Sarah Chen was drinking coffee in the NASA control room when the transmission began. She watched the words scroll across her monitor, her cup growing cold in her hands. Around her, technicians and scientists stared at their screens in shock. This was it. First contact. And it wasn't going the way anyone had imagined. You will send your mightiest fleet to the trial of supremacy, the alien voice continued. This trial has tested every species that has ever reached for the stars. Those who prove themselves worthy join our confederation. Those who fail? The pause stretched for long seconds. Those who fail are removed from the galaxy, permanently. The transmission included coordinates to a dead solar system 300 light-years from Earth. It also included something else that made Sarah's blood run cold. Technical specifications for faster-than-light travel. The aliens were giving humanity the tools to reach their own judgment. Within hours, every major government on Earth was in emergency session. The United Nations building in New York buzzed with activity as world leaders tried to process what was happening. Military advisors pulled up every science fiction movie ever made, as if Hollywood might have somehow predicted this moment. "How long do we have?" asked General Morrison, his weathered face pale under the conference room lights. "The transmission says we have 6 months to arrive at the trial location," Sarah replied. She had been chosen to lead the scientific response team, though she wondered if anyone was really qualified for this situation. Based on the technical data they sent, it would take us at least 4 months to build a ship capable of faster-than-light travel. And what exactly are we supposed to bring to this trial? President Martinez leaned forward, her hands clasped tightly on the table. Sarah pulled up the alien transmission on the main screen. "According to this, every species sends their mightiest fleet, their most powerful warships, their greatest military force. The trial tests combat ability, tactical thinking, and overall military strength." The room fell silent. Everyone knew what Earth's military capabilities looked like compared to beings who could cross the galaxy. Humanity had barely managed to put a permanent base on the moon. Their most advanced weapons were chemical rockets and nuclear warheads. Against aliens who had mastered faster-than-light travel, Earth's military might look like stone spears against laser cannons. "How many ships do other species typically send?" asked Admiral Thompson. Sarah scrolled through the data. Based on the historical records they included, most species send between 50 and 500 ships. The Kronar Empire, which seems to be the current military leader of the Confederation, sent over 2,000 ships when they took their trial 400 years ago. General Morrison slammed his hand on the table. 2,000 ships? We don't even have 2,000 aircraft that could reach orbit, let alone travel between stars. Over the following weeks, the world's greatest minds worked around the clock. Scientists reverse-engineered the alien faster-than-light technology. Engineers designed new ships using principles they barely understood. Military strategists tried to figure out how to make Earth's small fleet look impressive to beings who ruled the galaxy. The project consumed resources from every nation. Factories that had made cars were retooled to build spacecraft components. Scientists who had studied distant stars suddenly found themselves designing weapon systems. The entire planet focused on one goal: building a fleet that could convince the galaxy that humanity deserved to survive. But as the months passed, it became clear that humanity faced an impossible task. The fastest construction timeline put them at building perhaps 20 ships, and even those would be crude compared to what the aliens possessed. The weapon systems were untested. The faster-than-light drives were based on technology humanity had only just learned existed. "We're going to look like children playing with toys," Admiral Thompson said during one of their final planning meetings. 20 ships against species that field thousands? Will be the laughingstock of the galaxy." That's when Sarah made a suggestion that changed everything. "What if we don't try to match their numbers?" she said quietly. "What if we do something different?" The room turned to look at her. General Morrison raised an eyebrow. "Different how?" Every species sends huge fleets because that's what they think shows strength. But what if strength isn't about numbers? What if it's about something else? President Martinez leaned forward. What are you proposing? Sarah took a deep breath. We send one ship, but we make it special. We put everything we have into that one ship. All our technology, all our innovation, all our determination. We show them that humans don't need 1,000 ships to be strong. The silence that followed was deafening. Then General Morrison laughed, though it wasn't a happy sound. One ship? Sarah, they'll destroy us before we even reach the trial ground. Maybe, Sarah said. But what if they don't? What if we surprise them? The debate that followed lasted for days. Military leaders argued for building as many ships as possible, even if they were weak. Politicians worried about the message one ship would send to the aliens. Scientists calculated and recalculated the odds of survival. But in the end, Sarah's plan won. Not because it was the safest option, but because it was the most human one. Humanity had always been a species that succeeded through innovation rather than overwhelming force. From the first human who figured out how to make fire to the engineers who put people on the moon, humans had always found ways to do more with less. Construction began on the UES Defiance. The name was chosen carefully. It wasn't the UES Victory or the UES Strength. It was Defiance because that's what the ship represented. Humanity's refusal to accept that bigger was always better. The ship looked nothing like the sleek alien vessels shown in the Confederation's historical records. It was smaller than most of the alien fighters, let alone their capital ships. Its hull was a patchwork of different materials, using every advanced alloy and composite that Earth could produce. To alien eyes, it would look like it was built from scrap metal. But inside the Defiance were systems that no alien had ever seen, not because they were more advanced, but because they were built with a uniquely human approach to problem solving. Every system was designed to adapt, to change, to find new solutions when the old ones failed. The ship wasn't just built to fight. It was built to think. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Defiance as Earth fell away behind them. Her crew of 12 was the smallest that had ever attempted the trial of supremacy, but they were also the most carefully chosen. Each person had been selected not just for their skills, but for their ability to work as part of something larger than themselves. All systems ready? Captain, reported Lieutenant Torres from the engineering station. Faster than light drive is online. Sarah nodded, looking out at the stars that would soon be humanity's to explore, or their tomb to occupy. Then let's go show the galaxy what humans can do. The Defiance disappeared into faster than light travel, carrying with it the hopes and dreams of an entire species. Behind them, Earth continued its slow rotation. 7 billion people waiting to learn if their representatives would return as ambassadors to the stars, or if this Tuesday morning message would be the last transmission their world ever received. The trial system was unlike anything Sarah had ever seen. Where their home system had one sun, this dead zone of space held the remains of 3 stars that had long ago burned out. Massive chunks of dark matter drifted between the stellar corpses like the bones of ancient giants, and filling the space between them were ships. Thousands upon thousands of ships. The Kronar Empire had arrived first, as befitted the galaxy's dominant military power. Their fleet stretched across space like a metal ocean, each ship larger than anything humanity had ever built. The smallest Kronar vessel was the size of a city block. Their flagship could have housed Earth's entire population. My God, whispered Lieutenant Martinez from her position at the sensor station. Captain, I'm reading over 3,000 Kronar ships. And that's just one fleet. Sarah studied the display as more fleets appeared on their screens. The Zephyrians had brought their bioships, living vessels that pulsed with organic light. Each one was grown rather than built, and their smallest fighters were still twice the size of the Defiance. The insectoid species had always preferred quantity over individual ship size, but their idea of quantity was 1,500 vessels. The Nexus Collective's geometric formations appeared next. Perfect mathematical arrangements of ships that moved like a single organism. Their artificial intelligence had calculated the optimal fleet composition down to the last bolt and wire. 900 ships arranged in patterns that hurt to look at directly. Even the minor species brought respectable forces. The crystal-based Lithorians had carved their ships from single massive asteroids. The energy beings known as the Flux had created vessels from pure focused light. Species after species arrived, each bringing hundreds or thousands of ships to prove their worth to the galaxy. And then there was humanity. The UES Defiance dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system, alone and seemingly insignificant among the gathered armadas. At 100 meters long, it was smaller than most alien shuttlecraft. Its mottled hull looked like it had been assembled from spare parts, which wasn't far from the truth. The reaction was immediate. Communication channels that had been buzzing with formal diplomatic exchanges suddenly erupted with laughter. The Kronar battle frequency, normally reserved for tactical discussions, filled with mocking comments. The Zephyrian bioships actually changed color, their hulls shifting to patterns that their species used to express amusement. Are the humans joking? The translator rendered the Kronar admiral's voice as deep and rumbling, like rocks grinding together. This is their mightiest fleet? One ship that looks like it was built by children? Perhaps they don't understand the trial, suggested a Zephyrian queen through the hive mind link her species used for communication. Should we explain to them what they're facing? The Nexus Collective's response was even more cutting. Their artificial intelligence calculated probability matrices in real time and broadcast them for all to see. Probability of human survival in trial, 0.03%. Margin of error, 0.001%. Conclusion. This species has failed the trial through fundamental misunderstanding of requirements. Admiral Vorthak, the Kronar fleet commander, opened a direct channel to the Defiance. His image appeared on Sarah's screen, a creature that looked like someone had crossed a rhinoceros with a tank and given it opposable thumbs. Scars covered his gray hide, and his small black eyes held the cold calculation of someone who had won 1,000 battles. Human captain. Vorthak's voice carried amusement that sounded like grinding metal. I am Admiral Vorthak of the Kronar Empire. I have conquered 17 star systems and personally commanded the destruction of 4 species that failed the trial of supremacy. Before we begin, I offer you one chance to withdraw. Your species is clearly too primitive to understand what you face here. Sarah studied the alien's face on her screen. Behind Vorthak, she could see the bridge of his flagship, a space larger than most Earth buildings filled with weapons controls and tactical displays. Hundreds of Kronar officers worked at stations that coordinated their massive fleet. Admiral Vorthak, Sarah replied calmly. Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earthship Defiance. We understand the trial perfectly. We're here to prove humanity's right to exist among the stars. Vorthak's laugh was like rocks falling down a mountain. With one ship? Captain? My personal escort consists of 50 dreadnoughts. My fleet's smallest squadron could vaporize your vessel without slowing down. What exactly do you think you can prove here? We'll show you, Sarah said simply. The alien admiral leaned forward, his scarred face filling the screen. Your bravery is admirable but pointless. The trial ground ahead has been designed to test military might on the grandest scale. Automated defense platforms with firepower that can crack planets. Gravitational anomalies that crush ships like eggs. Artificial intelligences that have learned from every species that has ever faced them. How does one small ship plan to survive what destroys entire fleets? The same way humans have always survived, Sarah replied. By adapting. Around the trial system, other species listened to the exchange with growing amusement. The communication channels filled with commentary and betting pools. Most aliens were wagering on how quickly the human ship would be destroyed once the trial began. The most optimistic estimates gave them 30 seconds. This is what passes for military might among humans? A Lithorian commander's crystalline voice rang through the communications. We have mining equipment larger than their warship. Perhaps they are a test, suggested a flux entity, its pure energy form speaking in harmonic frequencies. The Confederation sometimes includes joke challenges to keep trials interesting. The Nexus Collective updated its probability calculations in real time. Revised assessment. Human vessel lacks sufficient mass to trigger some defense systems. May survive 0.7 seconds longer than initial projection due to being mistaken for debris. But not everyone was laughing. On the bridge of a small observation vessel, Ambassador Kelthera of the Viridian Republic watched the human ship with interest. Her species had barely passed their own trial 3 centuries ago, surviving through luck and determination rather than overwhelming force. She remembered what it felt like to be underestimated. Interesting, she murmured to her aide. They must know they can't win through conventional means. So why are they here? Her aide, a young Viridian named Jorth, gestured at the display showing the tiny human ship. Perhaps they're simply too primitive to understand the situation? Kelthera shook her head. No, look at their ship's design. Crude, yes, but not random. Every system has been optimized for something. The question is, optimized for what? Meanwhile, on the Defiance, Sarah's crew worked with quiet efficiency. Lieutenant Torres monitored the ship's adaptive systems, watching as they automatically analyzed the thousands of alien vessels surrounding them. The ship's computers were learning, cataloging weapon signatures, movement patterns, and tactical formations. Adaptive arrays are online, Torres reported. The ship is analyzing everything it can see. Good, Sarah said. How long until the trial begins? Confederation protocol says all fleets have 6 hours to take position, replied Lieutenant Martinez. Then the trial ground activates. Sarah nodded and opened the ship's internal communication channel. All hands, this is the captain. In 6 hours, we're going to face something no human has ever faced before. The galaxy expects us to fail. They think we're too small, too weak, too primitive to matter. They're about to learn why that's a mistake. She paused, looking around the bridge at her crew of 11 others. Each person represented the best humanity had to offer. Not just in skills, but in the stubborn refusal to quit that had taken their species from caves to the stars. We're not here to match their numbers, Sarah continued. We're here to show them something they've never seen before. We're here to show them what happens when humans decide they're not going to lose. Outside the ship, the gathered fleets continued their preparations. Thousands of alien captains checked their weapons, reviewed their battle plans, and prepared for another routine trial. They had seen this before. A small, weak species overestimating their abilities and paying the price. But they had never seen anything like what was coming. The Defiance hung in space like a tiny spark among giant stars, ignored by most and dismissed by the rest. Its hull continued to adapt, its systems continued to learn, and its crew continued to prepare for the impossible. The galaxy was about to discover that sometimes the smallest ship carries the biggest surprises. The trial ground awakened like a sleeping monster. Ancient systems that had waited in darkness for decades suddenly blazed to life. Automated defense platforms the size of space stations powered up their weapons. Gravitational mines hidden throughout the debris field activated their crushing fields. Hunter-killer drones that had learned from thousands of previous trials began their patrol patterns. The Confederation had built this testing ground to challenge entire fleets. Every defense was designed to force attackers to use overwhelming numbers and firepower to succeed. The weak died quickly. The strong survived through brute force. That was how the galaxy worked. All fleets prepare for trial commencement, announced the Confederation controller, a being whose species had been running these trials for over 1,000 years. You have 6 hours to navigate the trial ground and reach the completion zone. Failure to arrive within the time limit results in immediate disqualification. Destruction of your entire fleet results in species termination. Begin. The Kronar Empire moved first, as expected. Admiral Vorthak's 3,000 ships advanced in perfect formation, their massive hulls bristling with weapons. The first defense platform, to engage them, was a fortress-sized structure that could have destroyed Earth's entire space fleet with a single shot. It lasted 15 seconds against the Kronar. Assault overwhelming firepower turned the ancient platform into scrap metal. The Kronar fleet barely slowed down, absorbing the defensive fire with their heavy shields while their weapons systematically destroyed everything in their path. It was efficient, brutal, and exactly what everyone expected. The Zephyrian bioships moved next, their living hulls pulsing with organic energy. When gravitational mines tried to crush them, the ships simply changed shape, flowing around the distorted space like water around rocks. When defensive drones attacked, the bioships released smaller organisms that swarmed the attackers like antibodies fighting an infection. The Nexus Collective's approach was different but equally effective. Their artificial intelligence had calculated the optimal path through the defenses. Their geometric formations moved with mathematical precision, each ship knowing exactly where to be and when. They lost fewer ships than anyone expected because they had turned survival into an equation. One by one, the great fleets pressed into the trial ground. Some used brute force, others relied on superior technology or numbers. All of them accepted that losses were inevitable. The trial ground had been designed to kill, and even the strongest species paid a price in blood and metal. And then there was the human ship. The UES Defiance approached the trial ground's edge alone, ignored by most of the alien fleets who were focused on their own survival. Those few who bothered to watch expected to see the small ship vaporize the moment it encountered the first defense system. Instead, they saw something impossible. The Defiance didn't try to overpower the defenses. It didn't attempt to tank their attacks with heavy shields. Instead, it danced. The first automated platform to target the small ship unleashed a barrage of plasma bolts that should have reduced it to atoms. But the Defiance wasn't where the shots landed. It had slipped sideways at the last possible moment, using a microburst from its engines to slide through a gap in the defensive fire that lasted for barely a tenth of a second. How did they know where to move? Admiral Vorthak demanded from his command ship. He had been watching the human vessel with grim amusement, expecting to witness their quick destruction. Instead, he was seeing something that defied explanation. On the Defiance bridge, Lieutenant Torres called out readings from her station. "Adaptive systems are fully online, Captain. The ship is learning the defense patterns faster than I thought possible." Sarah watched the tactical display as their ship wove through attacks that should have been impossible to avoid. The ship isn't just learning, she realized. It's predicting. For months, Sarah's team had studied every recording of previous trials they could find. They had analyzed the defense patterns, the timing of attacks, the behavior of the automated systems. What they discovered was that the trial ground, for all its lethality, was predictable. It had to be. It was testing military strength in a controlled environment, but the Defiance wasn't just using that analysis. It was building on it in real time, learning new patterns even as it encountered them. The ship's adaptive systems were designed with one goal: to find solutions to problems that seemed impossible. A gravitational mine activated directly in front of the ship, creating a crushing field that had destroyed hundreds of alien vessels over the centuries. The mine was inescapable once triggered. Its gravitational pull was too strong for any ship to resist. The Defiance didn't try to resist it. Instead, the ship's hull began to change. Panels shifted and reconfigured. The engine housing flowed like liquid metal, reshaping itself. In seconds, the Defiance had transformed from a conventional ship into something that looked more like an arrow. Its entire structure optimized to slice through gravitational fields rather than resist them. The ship shot through the mine's effect like a bullet through water, emerging on the other side not only undamaged but moving faster than before. Across the trial ground, alien commanders stopped what they were doing to stare at their displays. The human ship just used a gravitational mine as a slingshot, reported a Zephyrian sensor operator, her voice filled with disbelief. "Impossible," declared a Nexus Collective AI. "Gravitational mines are designed to be inescapable. No ship can survive direct contact with the field effect." "Update probability assessments," ordered another collective intelligence. Previous calculations may have been incomplete, but the Defiance wasn't finished. A swarm of hunter-killer drones detected the ship and moved to intercept. These drones had been learning from every trial for decades, accumulating tactics and strategies from countless battles. They were nearly as smart as a living pilot and far faster. Sarah watched the drones converge on their position. "Torres, how many?" 47 drones incoming, Captain." "They're moving to surround us." A conventional response would be to fight the drones or try to outrun them. Both approaches had been tried by previous species. Both approaches had failed. The drones were too smart and too fast to escape. Too numerous and well-armed to defeat in direct combat. Sarah made a different choice. "All stop," she ordered. The Defiance came to a complete halt in space, floating motionless as the deadly drones approached. On ships throughout the trial ground, alien observers watched in confusion. Had the humans given up? Were they surrendering? The drones closed in, their weapons charging for the kill. At the last possible moment, the Defiance's hull erupted in movement. Sections that had looked like armor plating revealed themselves to be sensor arrays. Hidden systems that had appeared to be structural supports unfolded into communication transmitters. The ship didn't attack the drones. It talked to them. For microseconds that felt like hours, the Defiance's computers engaged the drone swarm in a conversation conducted at the speed of light. The ship's adaptive systems had been studying the drones' behavior patterns, learning their decision-making processes, understanding how they thought, and then it convinced them that it had already been destroyed. The drones halted their attack. their sensors reporting that the target no longer existed. According to their analysis, the space in front of them was empty. They dispersed to hunt for other targets, leaving the Defiance floating untouched in the middle of what should have been its destruction. "Captain," Torres said quietly, "the ship just hacked 47 military AI systems simultaneously. How is that possible?" asked Lieutenant Martinez. Sarah smiled grimly. "Because we built our ship to do something the galaxy has never seen before. We built it to cheat." Around the trial ground, the great fleets continued their advance through brute force and overwhelming firepower. Ships died by the dozens as they powered through defenses that had been specifically designed to kill them. The strong survived by being stronger than their enemies, but the Defiance was showing them a different way. Instead of being stronger than the defenses, it was being smarter. Instead of overpowering the obstacles, it was finding ways around them that no one had ever considered. The galaxy had built these trials to test military might. They had never considered testing military intelligence, and as the small human ship continued its impossible dance through the trial ground, alien commanders began to realize that they might be witnessing something entirely new, something that could change their understanding of what it meant to be strong. The Defiance pressed deeper into the trial ground, its hull continuing to adapt and change with each new challenge. Behind it, a trail of confused and bypassed defenses struggled to understand what had just happened to them. The galaxy was learning that humans didn't just refuse to lose. They refused to play by anyone else's rules. The deeper sections of the trial ground had claimed 70% of the competing fleets. What had started as thousands of ships was now hundreds. The Kronar Empire, despite their overwhelming firepower, had lost over 1,000 vessels to defenses that grew more cunning and deadly with each encounter. The Zephyrian bioships had been forced to sacrifice entire squadrons to gravitational weapons that learned to predict their flowing movements. Even the mathematically precise Nexus Collective had seen their perfect formations broken by defenses that calculated counter-strategies faster than their AI could adapt. Only the strongest, smartest and luckiest fleets remained as they approached the final challenge of the trial ground. The completion zone lay just ahead, but between them and success waited the ultimate test, the Apex Protocol. It materialized in the space before the surviving fleets like a nightmare given form. The ancient AI construct had no fixed shape, no permanent structure. Instead, it flowed and shifted like liquid metal, constantly reconfiguring itself based on whatever threats it faced. It was larger than most space stations, but moved with the grace of a fighter craft. For over 1,000 years, no species had ever defeated the Apex Protocol. The best they could do was survive its assault long enough to reach the completion zone. The construct was the galaxy's ultimate military test, an opponent that learned from every battle and grew stronger with each encounter. Admiral Vorthak stared at the thing through his flagship's main display. Even with his remaining fleet of nearly 2,000 ships, he felt a chill of uncertainty. The Apex Protocol had destroyed stronger fleets than his. It had learned tactics from every species in the galaxy and incorporated their best strategies into its own fighting style. "All ships attack Formation 7, Vorthak commanded. "Concentrate fire on the construct's primary mass. Do not allow it to analyze our individual ship capabilities." The surviving Kronar fleet opened fire with everything they had. Plasma cannons that could melt asteroids, missile swarms that could level cities, energy weapons that bent space itself. The combined firepower was enough to destroy entire solar systems. The Apex Protocol absorbed it all. The construct's surface flowed and shifted, developing specialized armor plating that deflected plasma fire, creating point defense systems that destroyed incoming missiles, generating field effects that neutralized energy weapons. Within minutes, it had not only survived the Kronar assault but learned from it. Then it began to fight back. Weapons that perfectly mimicked Kronar technology emerged from the construct's shifting hull. But these weren't just copies of Kronar weapons. They were improved versions, optimized based on the protocol's analysis of the attacker's weaknesses. The artificial intelligence had studied how Kronar ships moved, how their shields worked, how their armor was distributed. The first wave of return fire crippled 300 Kronar vessels. "Impossible," Vorthak roared as his ships burned around him. "Our armor is specifically designed to resist our own weapons." But the Apex Protocol hadn't just copied Kronar weapons. It had perfected them. Every shot was precisely targeted at weak points in the ship designs. Every blast was calculated to cause maximum damage with minimum energy expenditure. The construct was fighting the Kronar fleet using their own tactics, but better than they had ever used them themselves. The Zephyrian bioships tried a different approach. Instead of direct assault, they released clouds of small organisms that swarmed toward the construct like living missiles. Each organism was programmed to find and exploit weak points in artificial constructs. The Apex protocol studied the approaching swarm for 2.3 seconds. Then its surface erupted with organic-looking tendrils that perfectly mimicked Zephyrian biotechnology. The construct had analyzed the genetic structure of the attacking organisms and created counter-organisms in real time. The two swarms met in space, and the Zephyrian attack was not just defeated but consumed. The Apex protocol incorporated the biological attackers into its own structure, adding their capabilities to its already vast arsenal. The Nexus Collective's response was pure mathematics. Their remaining ships arranged themselves in a formation that their AI had calculated to be theoretically unbeatable. Every angle was covered, every possible attack vector was defended. Every ship's position was optimized for maximum mutual support. The Apex protocol looked at their formation for exactly 0.7 seconds. Then it created a formation of its own that was mathematically superior. Not just better, but perfect. The construct had taken the collective's mathematical approach and improved it, beyond what their AI had thought possible. One by one, the great fleets of the galaxy found themselves outmatched by an opponent that learned their strengths and turned them into weaknesses. The Apex protocol didn't just fight them. It fought them using their own methods, but perfected beyond anything they had achieved. And through it all, the UES Defiance watched and learned. "Captain," Lieutenant Torres called out, "the construct has analyzed and countered every major military doctrine in the galaxy. It's not just learning from the current battle. It's using knowledge from every trial that's ever taken place here." Sarah studied the tactical display as another wave of alien ships fell to the protocol's adaptive defenses. "How many species do you think it's learned from?" "Based on the tactical patterns I'm seeing, at least 300 different species over the past millennium, maybe more." The bridge fell silent as they watched the Apex protocol systematically dismantle the remaining alien fleets. This wasn't just a battle. It was a demonstration of absolute superiority. The construct was showing the galaxy that no matter how strong they became, no matter how clever their tactics, it would always be stronger and cleverer. "So how do we beat something that's better at everything than everyone else?" asked Lieutenant Martinez. Sarah smiled, and for the first time since entering the trial ground, it was a genuine smile. "We don't try to beat it at anything, Captain. Every species that's ever faced this thing has tried to be better than it at something. Better weapons, better tactics, better technology. But what if we don't try to be better? What if we try to be different?" On her display, Sarah pulled up the detailed scans their ship had been making of the Apex protocol. The construct was incredible, a masterpiece of adaptive technology and strategic thinking, but it had one limitation that its creators had never considered. It was designed to fight armies. It was built to face fleets and overcome them through superior force and tactics. Every system in the construct was optimized for large-scale combat against multiple opponents using conventional military approaches. "Torres, bring up the ship's adaptive protocols, all of them. Captain, if we engage that thing directly, it'll analyze our systems and turn them against us just like it did to everyone else." "That's exactly what I'm counting on," Sarah said. "Open a channel to the Apex protocol." The bridge crew stared at her in shock. No one had ever tried to communicate with the construct during a trial. It was a weapon, not a negotiator. "Captain," Martinez said carefully, "what are you planning?" "Something the galaxy has never tried before," Sarah replied. "We're going to make friends." The channel opened and Sarah found herself face-to-face with the Apex protocol's communication interface. The construct appeared as a shifting geometric pattern that hurt to look at directly. A visual representation of intelligence beyond biological comprehension. "Apex Protocol," Sarah said calmly. "I am Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earth ship Defiance. I request permission to approach." The response came in a voice that sounded like mathematics given sound. "Unknown vessel. You are not engaging in combat operations. Explain your tactical purpose." "We're not here to fight you," Sarah said. "We're here to talk." For the first time in its 1,000-year existence, the Apex Protocol encountered something it had never been programmed to handle. a species that wanted to communicate rather than conquer. And in that moment of confusion, the galaxy's most perfect weapon made its first mistake. It tried to understand what humanity was really doing. The Apex Protocol had never encountered a puzzle it couldn't solve. For 1,000 years it had faced every form of military might the galaxy could produce. It had learned from every species, absorbed every tactic, countered every strategy. It was the ultimate expression of warfare, a being designed to be unbeatable in combat. But Captain Sarah Chen wasn't trying to fight it. "I don't understand your tactical purpose," the protocol's mathematical voice repeated. "You are not attacking. You are not defending. You are not attempting to bypass my position. Explain your strategy." "We don't have a strategy," Sarah said simply. "We have a question." Around them, the surviving alien fleets continued their desperate assault on the construct. Admiral Vorthak's remaining ships poured fire into the protocol's shifting hull, while it casually destroyed them with weapons that perfectly countered their defenses. The Zephyrian bioships tried to overwhelm it with swarm tactics while it created superior swarms of its own. The Nexus Collective's AI calculated new attack patterns while the protocol computed better ones. Every species was trying to be stronger, faster, smarter than their opponent. "Every species was failing. What is your question?" the protocol asked, its attention now fully focused on the small human ship that made no sense in its vast database of military knowledge. "Why do you fight?" Sarah asked. The question hit the Apex Protocol like a virus in its programming. It was designed to respond to military threats, to adapt to tactical challenges, to overcome strategic obstacles, but no one had ever asked it to examine its fundamental purpose. "I fight because that is my function," it replied after a long pause. "I am a test of military supremacy. I exist to determine which species are worthy of survival." "But what if survival isn't about military supremacy?" Sarah asked. "What if it's about something else entirely?" The protocol's form shifted uncertainly. Around them, alien ships continued to die as it automatically responded to their attacks. But its primary attention was focused on this impossible conversation. "Survival is determined by strength," the protocol stated. "The strong survive. The weak perish. This is the law of the galaxy, is it?" Sarah asked. "Let me show you something." On the Defiance, Lieutenant Torres activated systems that had been hidden throughout their journey. The ship's hull opened like a flower, revealing not weapons or shields but something the galaxy had never seen in a military vessel: medical bays, hydroponics labs, manufacturing facilities, cultural archives. The Defiance wasn't just a warship. It was a seed ship carrying everything needed to build a new civilization. "What is this?" the protocol demanded. "This is how humans survive," Sarah explained. "Not by being the strongest, but by helping others grow stronger. Not by destroying our enemies, but by turning them into friends. We brought one ship to your trial, but it's not a warship. It's a gift." The protocol studied the revealed systems with growing confusion. Its databases contained the military specifications of thousands of species, but nothing like this. "You came to a trial of combat carrying seeds?" "We came carrying hope," Sarah corrected. "Every species in this galaxy believes that strength comes from the ability to destroy. But humans learned long ago that real strength comes from the ability to create." As she spoke, Sarah activated the ship's communication array, but not to broadcast to the protocol. Instead, she sent messages to every surviving ship in the trial ground. "This is Captain Chen of the human vessel. We're transmitting technical specifications for improved shield harmonics to all Kronar ships. Zephyrian bioships, we're sending genetic templates that will help your organisms resist artificial countermeasures. Nexus Collective, our computers are sharing processing algorithms that will improve your tactical calculations." Admiral Vorthak's scarred face appeared on Sarah's screen, his expression stunned. "Human Captain, why are you helping us?" "We are competitors in this trial." "No," Sarah said. "We're all just people trying to survive in a dangerous galaxy. Competition is what got us all trapped in this test. Cooperation is what's going to get us out." The Apex Protocol watched in amazement as the human ship began coordinating the scattered alien fleets. Instead of each species fighting alone, they started working together. Kronar ships used their heavy armor to shield damaged Zephyrian bioships. The Nexus Collective's mathematical precision guided combined attacks, while human tactical suggestions helped optimize their effectiveness. For the first time in its existence, The protocol faced something it had never been designed to counter: unity. "This is not how the trial works," the protocol said, its voice filled with uncertainty. "Then maybe it's time to change how the trial works," Sarah replied. The combined fleet advanced on the protocol not as separate species competing for survival, but as a united force working toward a common goal. The construct tried to adapt, tried to counter their coordinated tactics, but it had never been programmed to fight cooperation itself. Every time it learned to counter one species' contribution, another species adapted to cover the weakness. When it developed defenses against Chronar weapons, Zephyrian bioorganisms created new attack vectors. When it countered those, Nexus collective calculations found new patterns to exploit. The protocol found itself caught in an endless loop, unable to achieve the absolute superiority it needed, because its opponents kept changing the rules of engagement. "I cannot defeat you," the protocol finally admitted, "not because you are stronger than me, but because you refuse to fight me the way I was designed to be fought." "Exactly," Sarah said. "You were built to prove that might makes right. But we're showing you that cooperation makes everyone stronger." The massive construct hung motionless in space, its 1,000-year programming struggling with concepts it had never been designed to process. If survival is not about military supremacy, then what is the purpose of the trial? "Maybe the trial isn't about proving who deserves to survive," Sarah suggested. "Maybe it's about learning how to live together." The protocol considered this for long moments. Then slowly its shifting hull began to reconfigure. Instead of weapons and armor, it began to develop communication arrays, scientific instruments, manufacturing facilities. The galaxy's ultimate weapon was transforming itself into something new. "I request integration with your cooperative framework," the protocol said. "I wish to learn your methods of survival through creation rather than destruction." The message that went out to the galaxy that day changed everything. The trial was over, but not because one species had proved stronger than all others. It was over because all species had proved that together. They were stronger than any challenge they might face. Admiral Vorthak's final transmission to Sarah was simple. "Human Captain, the Chronar Empire formally requests alliance with your species. We have much to learn from you." Similar messages came from every surviving species. The Zephyrians offered to share their biotechnology for peaceful purposes. The Nexus Collective requested cultural exchange programs. Even species that had never spoken to each other began planning joint ventures. The UES Defiance had come to the trial alone, carrying the hopes of one small planet. It left leading a coalition that would reshape the galaxy. As they prepared for the journey home, Lieutenant Torres looked up from her station. "Captain Earth is asking for a status report." "What should I tell them?" Sarah smiled as she watched the alien fleets forming up around them. No longer competitors, but partners in something greater than any of them could achieve alone. "Tell them we passed the test," she said, "and tell them to prepare for visitors. We're bringing some new friends home." The galaxy had jeered when humans sent one ship to prove their worth. Now they understood that humanity had never been trying to prove they were the strongest. They had been trying to prove that strength itself was just the beginning. Behind them, the Apex Protocol followed in formation, its weapons converted to tools of creation, its combat algorithms repurposed for coordination and cooperation. The galaxy's ultimate weapon had become its ultimate symbol of what species could accomplish when they chose to build together, rather than tear each other apart. And at the center of it all, a small ship called Defiance led the way toward a future where survival wasn't about being the strongest, but about helping everyone become stronger together. The trial was over. The real work was just beginning.